When he arrived at these warring parties, what he did, he didn't ask who started what. He simply beat them both. And the angel said, he will take them. He will take many. He beat Paragoria, he beat Bosphorus. That's many, more than one. And then what he did then, he turned also to Cato, to Saspio in Africa, and in Varus in Spain, in Libinus in Spain. And so this is the many that the angel was talking about. We are proving the angel to be correct here. These islands were the last remaining for, you remember, there was Pompey, who was his arch-rival. And so these were the last remaining that were still holding on to Pompey. Now he had taken all of that. So he had now absolutely no rival on the throne. That is why then he went back to Rome. And the angel said in verse 19, let's get verse 19 once more. It says, after this, he will turn back towards the fortress of his own country, but will stumble and fall to be seen no more. But will stumble and fall to be seen no more. His own land here is Rome. So, as he went back to his own, remember, he couldn't go to Egypt no more because Egypt was now occupied by his arch-enemy, Antony, who had taken over from his queen, Cleopatra. This was a lady, really. When that meant he had to go back to Rome now as a Roman emperor. Remember, we said in part 4, at this time Rome hasn't conquered everybody to be an emperor worldwide, but it's beginning to show his forces that now I'm a force to be reckoned with. As he came back to Rome, and he was made to be a perpetual dictator. A dictator, remember, Rome were being ruled by senates, and they didn't have a king as such. So they would be ruled by a senate who has somebody on top of it who was able to command war and whatever, and to unite so was sort of a president. They call him a dictator then. We'll see the president thing, they'll be coming later as we look into the democracy which Rome introduced into our world. These accolades that he received, he really received them because he deserved them. Look, he had fought 500 battles, this one man. And he had taken over 1,000 cities, and he had slain over 1,192,000 men. So he was feared. He was a dictator. And that will cause him to stumble and fall, as the angel did say. Remember, as he was getting these accolades that now he is an absolute dictator, perpetual dictator, if you like. And so on the 15th, they call this one in Roman calendar. There is a 15th of March, which they call it an Ides. There is a 15th of May, which they also call an Ides. There is a 15th of July that they also call an Ides, and the 15th of October, which they also call an Ides. Every other month then that I did not count, the Ides will fall on the 13th of that month. When I talk about the 13th, you remember most hotels, they don't have floor number 13. And people are afraid of a Friday, the 13th of any month. And so these Ides, they happened to be falling on a Friday. So that is why they were very, very important. So on this, the 15th, this Ides of March, this 15th day of March, that's when he was supposed to be coronated, when a group of conspirators who were threatened by Caesar's tyranny, were threatened by these military tactics of this Caesar. They were led by Brutus, who was a commander. They stabbed Julius 23 times on the chest to make sure that he does not survive. Remember, the angel said, but a commander will put an end to his insolence. So the angel was right. It was a commander, Brutus, who stepped with that group. That was an end. The angel had said, to be seen no more means he was dead, never to be seen. Then let's come into today. Today then says, we're starting from verse 20 in our part 5. Verse 20 says, then shall stand up in his estate, that is King James Version I'm reading from. I'm going to read from NIV very, very soon. But from the King James Version, then shall stand up in his estate a raiser of taxes in the glory of the kingdom, but within few days he shall be destroyed, neither in anger nor in a battle. Remember, the angel didn't say in 2 days or in 1 day. He said within a few days. And remember now that this is a prophecy we're talking about. So we are kicking back our prophetic keys of a day for a year. So it should actually say within a few years. Few, how many? A 10 is few when you compare to others. A 20 would be few when you compare to others. But because we are not told exactly, we are going to leave it there. But look at what history will be providing us from here. That is important to us. Let's continue. Others, they want to say this was Antiochus Epiphanes. They like this one. Remember, we are not buying that because we are looking at a Roman emperor here who has fallen, so who must be succeeded by not a Christian, but by another Roman emperor. So that's why we ignore all of those who are saying this is this Epiphany, that Epiphany, or are suggesting any other. No, we're not looking at that one. We're looking at these chronologies of these Caesars as they are coming up. So you are succeeded by another Caesar. This one is called Cassius Octavius. Cassius Octavius, who was also known as Augustus Caesar. The name is very familiar to you now. Yes. This Augustus Caesar, he succeeded in is clearly a raiser of taxes. Why do we say he is one who is referred to as a raiser of taxes as opposed to Antiochus Epiphanes IV? This is the reason. Number one, if you go to the Wikipedia, they will tell you that there are very, very important, two important facts about Augustus Caesar. One is that under his reign, a new institution was created. And what was that institution called? It was called fiscus. You always hear our Minister of Finance calling about fiscus, fiscus, fiscus. Yes, this is the fiscus. It was introduced by Augustus Caesar, telling us that we are still under the Roman kingdom, friend. Whether you like that or you don't like it, but we are under the Roman Empire. We're using fiscus. Number two, what he's best known of is the census, which he introduced as a means of determining how much an individual would be taxed. All right? You would remember the case of Joseph and Mary, who were called to Bethlehem for a census. All right? And that census was to determine how much his taxes would have been. That's why it was important for Joseph and Mary to go to Bethlehem under this Augustus Caesar. That was under his reign. And we are sure that it was him because history tells us that he did not die in a war. He did not die because of anger, of a revolt. Somebody revolted against his kingdom, so he died. He did not die like that. He died peacefully. And so we know it was him indeed. Let's go to verse 21 now. We know that Julius Caesar fell, as the angel said. We know that now Augustus Caesar slept peacefully, just like the angel had said. Who is the successor now? Please don't bring to me any Antiochus Epiphanes, either the 4th or the 6th or the 18th or 1000. We don't want all of them. We just want to know that one must be a Roman emperor. No other one. Mustn't take him from the 3rd kingdom. No, mustn't take him from the Grecian kingdom. No, it must be from Rome, the 4th kingdom. Even though up to now it has not yet come in with its full power and to be recognized as an empire, world empire as such. Verse 21 says, he will be succeeded by a contemptible person. Contemptible person. Person who's treated, who's looked at with contempt. That's why he's a contemptible person. And that person, the angel continues to say, who has not been given the honor of royalty. That means he's not of royalty. And the angel continues to say, he will invade the kingdom when its people feel secure. Intrigue. Mark those. They're very, very important. And he will seize it, that is the kingdom, through intrigue. I've just told you about the intrigue. Mark those words. They are very, very, because they are clues as to who the angel was talking about here. I read that one from the NIV. So there are so many people who seem to fit this description in history. And not so many of them there, though, are from the Roman Empire. That's how we sift out these other ones. We said it must be a Roman Empire. So if they are not Roman empires to us, they are sifted out. And we are only concerned for now, therefore, with only the fourth kingdom, no other. So most Bible scholars were aware that they think this was Antiochus Epiphanes, who was indeed, I have to admit, he was indeed, according to history, he was indeed called the vile person because of his cruelty. Especially when you read the book of Maccabees, you will learn about him. But he was not a ruler in the fourth kingdom, and he was not a Roman, so he doesn't feature in here. Sift him out. Remember in chapter 8, we noticed that there was a moment in the fourth kingdom that started to reign, that when this fourth kingdom started to reign, a judgment quickly set in heaven. You remember that? We believe then, therefore, that this person the angel is talking about here is none other than Tiberius Caesar. There is his picture there, put it there on the top right of your notes. You will see him there. History also says that he was a son of Augustus Caesar's wife, but not by Augustus Caesar. So, in short, he was illegitimate to this kingdom. So, if he was illegitimate, then the citizens of the land surely should have treated him with contempt, since he was lacking the royalty. To us, he fits perfectly into this puzzle that we have been given by the angel here. I'll leave out the story of the wife that was petitioning Augustus Caesar to please consider my son when you retire, or when you are no more, make him to be the next empire and all of that, and it's refused. I'll leave that one out. We know who succeeded, that he did succeed him at the long last. And it's there on the notes. You can read it by yourself. I will not go into that one. Only that he died because he was contemptible, a contemptible person. His own soldiers, they suffocated him to death by a pillow, because they thought he was drunk enough that he had died. And when they saw him waking up, they said, he's still drunk, and no, let's finish him. Then they suffocated him with a pillow. I'm just proving there the contemptible part, as the angel did say. Verse 22. Verse 22 says, then an overwhelming army will be swept away before him, both it and the prince of the covenant will be destroyed, will not survive. Now, this person, it must be during this person's reign in the fourth kingdom that the Messiah dies. And indeed, who was reigning at the time of the crucifixion of Christ? It was Tiberius Caesar. So we are corrected. But now, there should be wars, and many wars that are being fought here, because the angel said an overwhelming army will be swept away before him. Remember, this Tiberius Caesar wasn't fighting himself. He would ask people to go and fight for him because he's an emperor. He would not lead the army. And then he would only get the accolades. That's how he got into the throne. And he would promise this one and this one and that. And he would come to the nation that he wants to invade, and promise them that no, we can simply join me and there's no need for us to fight and protect you. And those who agree, then he will plunder them, even though they've agreed. He will plunder them still. That's why there was that intrigue part on his part. All right? Let's check with Luke 2, verse 1. It refers to the census that was organized by or authorized by the Emperor Augustus Caesar. And after that, the emperor dies. Remember, the Bible has said, the angel has said, a few days. So his reign wasn't long. It took about hardly 14 years. Then he was no more. Then in Luke 3 verse 1, there is a mention there of Emperor Tiberius, who is mentioned in connection with John the Baptist's ministry in Luke 3 verse 1. That's why we are sure that it is this emperor, and we are correct. So he is the one, according to history again, who succeeded Augustus Caesar, who was a mighty warrior, and he was a mighty warrior in a way, not that much though. Who would show we'll stay with him a little bit on this part. Let's go on. The Public Broadcasting Services, PBS, they say this about him. They say his political inabilities, so he wasn't a politician, his poor judgment and jealousy led Rome into a dark age of political purges, murder, and terror, but admit he was irritatingly successful. Despite all of this guy would still be successful, even though the country was going down, just like our country is getting more and more load sheddings. But the politicians, and we're going in our numbers to go and vote this year. The politicians are happy, even though the country is going down. So, Jesus, the Prince here, the Messiah, remember this is a prophecy of 2,300 days. You remember when we're dealing with the 77s, there was a mention of the Messiah, the Prince, who shall establish a covenant with many. This is the prophecy we're talking about here. As we said, this is the same prophecy as in Daniel 8, but we're getting further details that we were not given in that one. So when you read there, Jesus, the Prince of the Covenant, is charged with forbidding the payment of taxes to the emperor. And then in John 19, verses 12 to 15, the chief priests, they tell Pilate that if he does not crucify this man, he is then not a friend of the emperor. Which emperor? Tiberius. And he was known of having very low morals. Hence, he was contemptible. They declared, the priests, they declared, we have no king but Caesar, but the emperor. Emperor Tiberius Caesar. Let's continue. There is a man on the bottom right there. There is a man, Tiberius Caesar, I'm showing him there on your note. So the prophecy had said, he will invade a kingdom when its people feel secured. Let's look at that part to further confirm that we are correct when we say the person spoken about here is Tiberius Caesar. Uriah Smith says, dissimulating on his part and possession of kingdoms without opposition were circumstances attending his ascension to the throne. Daniel and Revelation by Uriah Smith, page 136. Smith goes further to say, tyranny, hypocrisy, debauchery, and uninterrupted intoxication, if these traits and practices show a man to be vile, then Tiberius, in disgusting perfection, had it all. Quoting the Encyclopedia America article on Tiberius, he says this: to show Tiberius's astounding fulfillment of this prophecy, quote, acting the hypocrite to the last, thus expired the Emperor Tiberius. That is on page 137 of that book by Uriah Smith. So far, we have proven the prophecy to be true insofar as verses 21 and verse 22 are concerned. Let's look at other views. The Bible.org, however, follow the Antiochus the Great story, despite the Bible leaving him for a while in pursuit of the new role players. They say he, that is Antiochus, could have gone down in history as the greatest had he not left Greece alone by not attacking it. You see, this is a person who is attacking Greece. So it's not the fourth kingdom. Then notice that when he was killed while plundering the temple at Elam, talking about Israel here, he was succeeded by Seleucus IV Philopator, who in turn was succeeded by the most dreaded Jewish persecutor, who was called as Antiochus IV Epiphanes. They name Antiochus IV Philopator as the one who raised the taxes as described by the angel. They say that even because of the rising power of Rome, he was forced to pay tribute to the Romans of 1,000 talents annually. They also are mentioning the rise in the power of Rome, but he did not succeed, as we have been following the story from Egypt. Julius Caesar was manning Egypt, as he was married to Cleopatra. Egypt, that's the king of the south. So when we talk about the king of the south, we're talking about Julius Caesar at that time. When the angel says he was succeeded, they mean who? The one who was there. They needed to follow Julius Caesar properly in order to establish a story that I can listen to and buy. I'm not buying this one, unfortunately. I'm sorry. So we look at this factual and historical as it is, but it is on a smaller scale than what Augustus Caesar did in terms of the taxes. And we're saying, even now, our government is using the fiscus that was established by who? Augustus Caesar. Let's continue. We're continuing with these different views. I'm showing you both sides of the story, so that you don't accuse me of being biased here. If ever I'm biased, I must be biased with the Bible, not with any other. The main concern that we have against this different view of Antiochus Epiphanes and all of these is that they look at this prophecy mainly from the side of the Jews who are being dependent, they are depending on the information from the book of Maccabees, which is by the Jews, that is being narrow in their research. They need to broaden up and look at a world empires as the Bible is talking about here, and not focus narrowly on. So we note the explanations by Zophla, whom they quote saying, soon after Heliodorus was dispatched to plunder the temple, Seleucus Philopator suddenly and mysteriously was removed. To them, this was the fulfillment of Daniel 11, verse 20. Since the prophecy does not mention the king of the north in verses 19 and 20, we take P.G. Temple's view, who says, the most important theme through these verses is that Rome has come to control the world at this point. That's what is important to us here. So according to P.G. Temple, it was Julius Caesar who came to Egypt with a custodian mandate from the Caesar, from the Senate in Rome. So this we verified with the World Encyclopedia, with the Britannica Encyclopedia, with Wikipedia and Uriah Smith. They all agree to this, rather than being narrow with the book of Maccabees only. When the squabbles came in Egypt, I'm looking now at this view that we are taking, that this is Julius Caesar, Augustus Caesar, Tiberius, that line. Looking at that one. When the squabbles came in Egypt over the kingship, Rome was consulted, and it was a Roman Caesar who ruled who should be the king. And that was Julius Caesar. The Maccabees story seems too good to be true, though. It is told by the Jews for the Jewish nation to take the pride in themselves. It's not about the world history. The fact that it is not included in our canon, that makes us more prone to leave it alone as well. We had agreed with Uriah Smith in our part 4 that a new player has been introduced thus far, and that player was Rome. Get that one. It would then make good sense to agree with P.G. Temple when he says, get this one, the kingdom under discussion in these verses is Rome, on page 104 of his book there, Daniel and Revelation. If that is true, then the emperor who raised taxes around that time was Augustus Caesar. Uriah Smith also agrees with us in this case. I know you are saying I'm biased. Let me address my biasness here. We are saying, but this happens to too many kings in their kings. Yes. And therefore, it is not unique in this case. In part 4, we noticed a new player as introduced to the cast. We are following that player throughout. He was introduced to us for a reason. So both the Encyclopedia Britannica and the Wikipedia, also the World Encyclopedia, they point to Augustus Caesar as the raiser of the taxes. These encyclopedias are not based on a particular side. They are not following a particular church teaching. That's why we are following it too in this section. So for this reason, we shall follow P.G. Temple and Uriah Smith's commentaries. Uriah Smith says, taxing, which embraced all over the world, was an event worthy of notice by the angel. Then he says this, the person who enforced it has certainly a claim to the title of a raiser of the taxes. So we see only one person here, and that is Augustus Caesar, who died peacefully, not in a war, not in anger, at his bed at Nola in 1480, just like the angel had said. No other person fits this description. Let's come now to verse 23. After coming to an agreement with him, that's what the angel says. Still talking about this king, this Tiberius, okay? After coming to an agreement with him, he will act how? Deceitfully. And with only a few people, he will rise to power. Aha! You can tell me that Antiochus Epiphanes also did that. No, it wasn't him. Public Broadcast Services, PBS, they stated that his political inability, his poor judgment, and jealousy. That's what they said. They also tell us of his rise to power through manipulating certain individual army generals to go and fight for him and for him to get the credit. Tell me that it is not acting deceitfully, if it is not coming to an agreement, if it is not only using a few people to gain. They also tell how he lied about the same to get them killed so that they are no threats to his kingdom. You see, at one time, when he had asked someone to go and fight for him, and that person was an able gentleman at war, and he did it very, very well, and he saw that this man is now becoming popular with his soldiers, and the Senate is much more inclined now in liking him and loving him, and so he lied about him to the Senate so that he could get that person killed. And he gets what? The credit. That's intrigue. One might say, but Rome is already in power. What power is this then? Remember, Rome, the kingdom, is just coming up, and there are so many people who are getting to the so-called throne, but not a real throne like others. You see, that's why these are called the Caesars, the emperors, and whatever, not the king. So Rome did not use that system. They used a democracy, and in their democracy, they put somebody to be in charge, just one person there. But the Senate was governing. Let's continue. So up to now, Rome is just a kingdom. It had not risen to a world dominance as was Greece before it. They are still fighting these smaller tribes or nations and incorporating. That way they are strengthening their power. They are rising up to that level. So, and remember what the angel said. We'll see that when we get, let's continue. We'll see it very soon. Let me rush to that verse. Verse 24 says, when the richest provinces feel secure, he will invade them and will achieve what neither his fathers nor his forefathers did. What is that, angel? He will distribute the plunder, the loot, and the wealth among his followers. Of course, no other person had done that before. And then, what more, angel? The angel says, he will plot the overthrow of fortresses, but only for a time. But only for a time. That's verse 24 in the NIV. It is strange indeed that he would attack the richest provinces, plunder them, loot them, only to distribute the plunder and the loot among his followers and those loyal to him. That's strange. It has never happened before, but it's true that he did that too. Let's follow him this way. This way, he cemented friendship and loyalty, causing a divide and rule. What divide and rule? Remember, those who are being plundered, they will not like that. But those who are beneficiaries to this plunder, they like that. There's a divide and rule we're talking about that. We see these being practiced even by politicians in our time, in the 21st century. You have to be connected. Somebody will tell you, I have a connection. We'll get this tender, and this tender, and this tender. And we've seen how the country has gone down as a result of that. So it's not a good way, but it happens. That's all what I'm saying here. So Diodorus, Seleucus, and Josephus, they say he, that is Tiberius, availed himself of a mean artifice without specifying what it was. He would say, oh, no, I just want this. Take all the other ones. I just want this. Then John says that he pretended to come as a friend to Ptolemy. That's how Egypt was overthrown. He pretended to be a friend to Ptolemy. Remember, Rome is ruling, but there is a king there who's under Rome, and they were protecting him when he was young. They are grown up now. Their affairs are being managed by Rome, but they are a king, not under Rome, but as a friend of Rome. That's what this thing is saying here. So Diodorus and Josephus say that he controlled Memphis and of all Egypt as far as Alexandria, fully illustrates that what is said here, that he would enter upon the fattest places of the province. There was no country that was as rich in gold as Egypt. Fattest. When these are invaded, when these are plundered and looted, their loot and plunder are returned to them, the army, and those who entered the treaty with him. So everybody would like to be fighting on the side of this young man because he's going to get something from here. P.G. Temple says Rome's technique was to share the wealth as they took the wealth and as they rose to conquer the world. They'll conquer you and then help you rebuild your country. We see that strategy being used even by the United States of America. They'll come and destroy, bombard the country, and then they will apportion some money for that country to rebuild itself. They're using the same strategy. Cambridge Scholars Dictionary or Bible gives this example. They say, he promised and partly bore the cost of it. A city wall at Megapolis in Arcadia, he contributed largely to the restoration of the temple of Zeus of Olympus at Athens in Greek. And so, this is the man we're talking about. They're talking about Tiberius emperor here. So, verse 25 says, with a large army, he will stir up his strength and courage against the king of the south. The king of the south will wage war with a large and very powerful army, but he will not be able to stand because of the plots devised against him. Remember, this guy is a master of intrigue. So when he plans to go and attack there, there's another plan that has been devised against him. This describes the final conquest of Egypt, which includes the Battle of Actium in 31 BC. It should be noted that the king of the south at this time is no longer on the line of Ptolemy, but it's Mark Antony, who joined with Lepidus and Caesar to form a triumvirate. A triumvirate is a three-party rule in Rome. Now, we're getting to history. You see, it's no longer Ptolemy there, king of the south. It is Antony and his triumvirate. So, according to P.G. Temple, one of their purposes was to avenge the assassination of Julius Caesar, and they all three of them began to go after the things in their own ways. They began attacking every person who was there in the 23 wounds that he received. They avenged for that one. They'll go after those people wherever they are. The differences among themselves cost them the war. Because these guys claimed to be united, to be one, but they were not. They were real enemies of each other. But they wanted to appear as friends, as in an ally. It should be remembered that they had been bribed with the spoils and with the loots earlier on. So that was now paying off. Bribery. Now, let's take a short review of the Fourth Kingdom. We mustn't forget the Fourth Kingdom. And let's see how does it spring up. It doesn't come like all the other ones. We know that Nebuchadnezzar Babylon was attacked by the Medes, and they fell under the Medes, and then the Persians, then the Medes and the Persians, and then we know that that one Greece Alexander the Great attacked the Persian part of the Middle Persian, but not so with the Fourth Empire. It's not clear how it rises up. That's why I'm saying let us revise it. Let's remember how it came into power. The Bible said in Daniel 7 verse 7 at the end, it was different from all the former beasts. Number one. In chapter 8 verse 23 at the end, it says, a stern-faced king, a master of intrigue will arise. That's the fourth, right? Not that this person was military strong. No. Stern-faced and a master of intrigue. It doesn't come in a war. And then in chapter 8, verse 25, at the beginning there, it says, he will cause deceit to prosper, and he will consider himself superior. He will cause deceit, must be the order of the day, according to this person. Now, let's explore the word different here. It was different from all former or previous beasts. In what way was Rome then different from all other kingdoms? It had to be different from the former beasts, but how? Had to be different from other kingdoms. What was different with Rome? Rome did not have a king. That's different. All of these had kings, but Rome did not have a king. They did not want to have a king over them, although history says that at one time they had a king whom they disposed of. They have always been a republic, just like South Africa is a republic. They were a constitutional state, just like South Africa is a constitutional state. And then they had an empire. As we are a constitutional state, we have a president. This is where we get imperialism from. Empire, imperialism. An empire would want to expand his empire, then you are getting imperialism there. Now, they support democracy, but themselves are not democratic. There is only one person who rules in Rome, period. And you dare not oppose him, period. They support, though, democracy, but themselves are not democratic. Let me not go there. So no other states or kingdoms were like them then and now. When you look at Daniel 11 verses, it says, those who eat from the king's provisions will try to destroy him. His army will be swept away, and many will fall in battle. The two kings, get these two kings, with their hearts bent on evil, will sit at the same table and lie to each other, but to no avail. Despite their lies, that will not help them, because an end will still come at the appointed time. It doesn't matter how much they've lied to each other, but the end will still come when at the appointed time. Who appoints time? That's my God, my Father. Verse 25 actually introduced another person in the picture, and that person we have seen in our part 4, the pictures of him, Anthony. His name was Mark Antony. He is the king of Egypt, the south, since he married Cleopatra. Remember, Julius Caesar has been assassinated. Now on the throne is Lepidus. This time, Lepidus is the same Tiberius, all right? This time period in Rome is called the triumvirate period. Tri meaning 3 and virate meaning men. That's a 3-man rule. These were, according to most scholars, Marcus Lepidus, Augustus Caesar, and Mark Antony. This trio had come together to conclude their task of controlling the world. Controlling the world to revenge the assassination of Julius Caesar. That's the round table that the angel was talking about here. Indeed, they sat together around the table discussing mischief. As the angel said, they lied one to another, and their lies did not materialize. When Caesar came to Egypt to deal with Mark, he was defeated. Remember, it is now Rome against Rome. What made the difference was that Mark had an extra support of the Egyptian army of Cleopatra. Now let's see it graphically. The verse so far, the verse said, all 3 of them will sit around the table and plot mischief. That's Pompey and Julius Caesar. The Gallic Wars, 58 to 49 AD. The Civil Wars of 49 to 44 AD. Caesar crossed the Rubicon. There is a Rubicon there. To ignite the Civil War. He's crossing towards the south. And the Senate and Pompey fled. Caesar entered unopposed. Caesar defeated Pompey. Pompey fled to Egypt. Ptolemy the 8th killed Pompey, hoping to please Caesar. Caesar deposed Ptolemy and installed Cleopatra as the ruler. See the lies? Let's look at it as the triumvirate now. All right? There is the Octavian side here, and or the Augustus. Remember, Octavian, Augustus, Caesar. There is a triumvirate here, it's Octavian. There is Marcus Lepidus this side. There is Mark Antony this side. That's the triumvirate we are talking about here. Let's continue. Now, Lepidus down here has been defeated by Octavian. So there is now the East and the West. No one else. There's now the East and the West. There is the West now, there is the East. There is your North. So that's how I'm telling which is the East, which is in the West, good people. So this Antony, this side, is now controlling from Egypt and all of the East, whereas the Octavian is controlling the West, or Greece, Rome. So the East now is facing, Rome is divided into 2 now. It has been a triumvirate, now it's a biumvirate now. From there, Augustus Caesar, Rome, he reformed Rome's finance and tax system. He created permanent army or navy to secure borders. It brought stability to and the predictability and equity to the Roman world. He found Rome bricks, as they said, and he left it in marble. He found Rome being built with bricks, and he left it when it was built with marble, with tiles. Beautiful. Yes. So Rome became prosperous in his rule. So he created Rome's first police and fire departments. Rome had a strong moral and cultural leader. So Augustus and Herod were in place here. So we've seen that one. That's when Rome is coming to be a world dominance. Not by war, by power, wealth, and all of that. They're coming up. It says the king of the north will return to his own country with great wealth, but his heart will be set against the Holy Covenant. Let's go back. This is the king of the north now. All right? This is the king of the north because defeated. Anyone who defeats that one becomes the king of the north. So he returns home with a lot of wealth, but his heart is eyeing Jerusalem down there. The Holy Covenant. What he's interested in, the way these people are governed. They have a God who governs them differently from us. I want to see this thing. I want to copy this thing. His heart is against the Holy Covenant. And then the angel further says, he will take action against it. What is the it there? Is their Holy Covenant. You see now this kingdom, as it is establishing itself, now is getting worried about God's people and God's laws and God's rules. Is taking an action against God's people and God's rules. What is important here are the rules in place. And then the angel said, and then return to his own country. Once he has taken an action against, he goes back to his own country. So one cannot help but note the two returns in this verse. The first return, the king of the north will return to his own country. That's the first return. Second return, and then will take action against it and then return to his own country. That obviously that means after he had attacked. I've explained the first, after the first conquering of the king of the south, Antony there. At this return, he is established as the world ruler or the empire. The fourth kingdom is now fully set in place. Because he has taken even Egypt, the Syria, which were the remaining strongholds of the third kingdom, which is Alexandria's. So he has taken those now to himself. Therefore, he is now the world empire. He has replaced the ram and its horns. And he is not described as a beast. This beast is inexplicable. You will see that one now. He begins, the first identity is that as he goes to his own country, as he returns, he is eyeing the Holy Covenant. And he takes action against the Holy Covenant and then goes to his own country. All right? In Daniel 7, verses 9 to 14, you see the moment this king or this government sits, there is judgment in heaven. Why? Because the Holy Covenant has been touched, has been tampered with. So the second return pertains to his first. As he went to his own country, Rome, he had vowed to return, but this time to deal with Judah. Israel had not come to his aid against Egypt. That's why he noted that, said, "You did not help me. I'm going to deal with you." So the second return is when he encamped around Judah and ultimately destroyed the temple in AD 70, as in Matthew 24, verses 15 to 20. This is the last slide, but let's review what we've done so far. I don't want it to be lost, and I'm weary that we've taken over an hour. We should note that it was not the fourth beast that uprooted the three horns. It was the little horn. Get it? The fourth beast in Daniel 2 did not uproot the three horns on his head. It was the little horn that uprooted other three horns of this beast. All right? So we're now seeing the beast and with all the horns, but we're not seeing the little one. The little one has not yet come, because the little one is going to uproot the three. All right? So far, we have just identified the fourth beast, I've said. We have noted that others call it the pagan Rome. That's what it was called, the pagan Rome, when Rome was ruled by monarchs which they refused. We have also witnessed the Republic Rome as a kingdom. We are now noticing that most kingdoms currently are republics and sovereign states, while Rome itself is not that. Rome is dictating, and we are a democracy. We are a democracy. We have not yet identified the papal Rome. Get that one. The little horn that uproots the other three horns has not yet surfaced. That's why we have not identified it. Thank you, friends. Let's continue here next time. May God bless you. Let me hear from you.